Hello, all. I'm Peter Olson here, uh, Chicago Family Law Group. Just jumping on a YouTube Live here on what did we title this? Family Law in the Pandemic. Thanks for joining us. This is a little spur of the moment. Feel like normally when I'm doing slides or big presentations, I'll put together a slide package or things like this. But kind of thought the time sensitivity of what we're talking about today with COVID-19 and, just sort of what would you say, not totally unexpected, but the large, let's call them large impacts that the virus is having. There's a reason why I'm sitting in my living room right now, of course, and a lot of impact in the family law space. So I'm going to talk about six things related to family law in the pandemic. They're mostly sort of tailored. Obviously, I'm an attorney in Illinois, so I'm talking Illinois law. 90% of what we're doing as a firm at Chicago Family Law Groups within the Circuit Court of Cook County. So there is going to be a little bias, or the real deep knowledge applies to Cook County Circuit Court, although um, most of what I'm seeing is very similar in other parts of the state, at least. We do have some cases in the collar counties, and they're doing a very similar sort of thing. Um, so I hope everybody's staying healthy. So far, my biggest concern, honestly, has only been trying to make sure I'm eating healthy from home. Nothing concerning COVID. Particularly, my heart would go out to people who are watching and have children, because boy, that would be a difficult situation. I know some of my family members, I think, have spring break this week, and you know what? I don't think they went to Florida. So, so there's that, and I couldn't imagine doing what I'm doing just work-wise on a daily basis if I had, three kids running around. So, um, but other than that, I'm just trying to focus on sort of, hey, what's possible? What's the new normal given what exists? And try to sort of tamp down the unknowns that are out there. Excuse me, because as we're moving forward, I don't know, in family law that I've been dealing with here, a week ago Friday, was that the 13th, is when we got notice that the Circuit Court of Cook County was going to be shutting down for a while. And so I've sort of been in COVID-19 sort of preparation and doing what we need to do really since that time. And a lot more is known. So whether it be, broadly what's going on with the virus, what's the world's picture going to look like, I guess, specific to United States and Illinois. I think a lot more of that is known if you really are watching people who know what they're talking about. And if you're looking at what Asia did in terms of just sort of a timeline to think about. Obviously, there's still some unknowns. And the court system's actually done a great job. It's rare that I think this, and it's certainly rare that I say that the Circuit Court of Cook County is doing a wonderful job. But I'll tell you, the fact that they got out in front in terms of announcing the fact that court system was going to be sort of, and I'm going to deal with this in a second here, but sort of closed for the next 30 days, much earlier, at least than the other counties we deal in, such as Lake County or DuPage County. It was really helpful. So we could kind of we had a weekend in front of things to really just sort of think about how are we going to do this remote work, which wasn't and isn't that big of a deal in general for a professional services firm, because we're working remotely to different degrees all the time. I mean, we do have an office downtown Chicago, but still. Um, so I'm appreciative of that. They were really way out in front of the process compared to other counties. And then secondly, I'll tell you, and then I'll transition to kind of what we're talking about here is the chief, and I'm talking specifically about the chief judge of the Domestic Relations Division in Cook County, Grace Dickler. Has been rolling out a ton, probably 20 at last count, of what we call general administrative orders that are really helping and giving us a lot of guidance on how to basically be doing things right now, and who knows, for at least um, probably at least the next month, in terms of what's going on in the court system. Just by way of normally there's like one or two administrative court orders out a year. Sort of like, hey, we have this new program for parenting, a new parenting class, or a new way that you can schedule a court date. So you literally see like one of those types of orders a year. In the last 7 days ish, there have been somewhere around 20 administrative court orders through. It's basically the judge that manages the divorce and parentage cases in Cook County. And so compliments to her, because to transition to my first point, no, that's the bridge to the first point. The first point is basically the courts aren't closed. That's the thing you guys need to know who are watching this, live. I see a number of people on the call or after the fact. Courts are not closed, and most of that has been innovations and stuff that has been rolled out um, in this last 1 week period. It's been all these administrative court orders. In the chat, we're going to try to link to basically the court's website, because that's where all the administrative orders are located. If you're a lawyer, take a look through them. If you're a non-lawyer, they do get a little kind of legalese. But let me just check through basically everything that can be done right now remotely, to just put it out there. Orders of protection are being extended and put into place. Divorce prove-ups, basically the simple court date that ends a divorce, they are now being done remotely. Just as of yesterday, 2 days ago, I saw that one get rolled out. That was kind of shocking, because I know at our firm, that was one of my biggest disappointments. I think we have 3 uncontested divorces that are, like an inch away from being done. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're going to be done in a week. And now it's like, you never know when this divorce case is going to be over. So orders of protection are getting extended and granted. Prove ups, the final court date in divorce cases, are being done remotely. We can enter agreed orders, meaning, right, we have a case settled. One of the things I'm going to do yet this afternoon actually is a case that I'm 99% sure myself, opposing attorney on a sort of a custody parenting time case, are agreed, and we're going to be able to wrap that case just like we are able to wrap some of those divorce prove-ups. Emergency matters. The courts, in fact, are open even for in-person stuff if you go in on an emergency motion, like you can always do. I'm sure the judges are being really pretty hardcore, and you might find yourself in a bit of trouble if you are bringing in what is popular in everyday land, a bogus kind of emergency motion. But, you know, if you have, what are your normal emergency motions? Somebody grabbed my kid and ran to Texas or something illegally, I'd be doing an emergency motion on that. Emergency orders of protection are obviously, right, domestic violence. Hey, my wife and I are going through a divorce, and she just took $100,000 out of our shared savings account. So emergency matters are something that can be happening. And I'll tell you what just came, literally was in my email inbox this morning, actually, is that the courts are actually dealing with sort of non-emergency pleadings too. If I wanted to file a petition to modify child support, and this I literally just saw this morning, so I haven't really digested it. But what it appears is that the administrative order is basically allowing me to file, let's just say, a petition to modify child support, and then the order gives a specific deadline or timeline on answering that petition if you're the other party, and then a specific deadline with which a judge is going to rule on that motion. And within that administrative order, uh, it sets forth basically if the judge wants or needs a hearing, we can do that virtually. So that's my big point number one. I don't know what you're hearing out there, let's just say in the media or whatever. But the courts are not closed. And those five things, orders of protection, divorce prove ups, agreed orders, emergency matters, and non emergency matters, can all be happening right now. If you're one of our clients, reach out to us. If you're not one of our clients or whatever, you're a prospective client, reach out to us because really, when I've checked off those five things, the only things that I would say now cannot and are not happening are, I would imagine, a real deep, sort of complex hearing would probably be put off, right? What's your most complex thing? Some big custody case with multiple witnesses, a major divorce case with like a lot of witnesses and maybe really deep financials where you're having to present like a ton of evidence or expert witnesses. I would think really kind of complex hearings would be challenged to occur under the current environment. But that's it. It seems like really complex, multi-witness, big time evidence hearings are not happening. But everything else, just like I said, seems to be kind of open for business. And the court's really actually done some interesting innovation, I think, just in the last week on those points. So that's point number one. The courts are not closed. Point number two, really related to point number one, is just what is the generic order that's now in place in terms of court scheduling? Um, and that order is simply basically every case that had a court date that is scheduled between March 17th and April 15th is given an automatic 30-day continuance without basically nothing else needs to happen. So I'm not looking at a calendar this second, but I know we had a number of matters, I believe, on March 18th. So they, I believe, went specifically to April 18th just automatically. So that is how matters that are active with court dates in the 30-day time window when the courts are closed for sort of normal operations are happening. So if that's you, just kind of do the math on it. It's basically 30 days from the date that got canceled, you automatically should be going to court again. If it falls on a weekend, I'm sure it's just the next business day. So courts are not closed. With very few exceptions, courts are actually open and doing stuff. The 30-day automatic continuance is what's in play with regards to you if you have or had a court date between March 17 and April 15. Parentheses, I bet that moves out a couple more weeks, but that's the current order, the automatic 30-day continuance. Point number three, I actually just heard this on a radio program that my wife and I had on just sort of as background fodder in the last half an hour. Point number three that I wanted to address is what does parenting time look like under these shelter in place orders? Illinois is under one. I'm not tracking every state in the country, and it seems theoretically possible one of these days the federal levers federal level is going to do a shelter in place kind of deal. But what does parenting time look like under the current Illinois shelter in place order? I'm gonna answer it that way because I have looked at um, basically the governor's executive order on shelter in place and how that interacts with some of the administrative court orders that have come down from Judge Dickler in the Cook County Domestic Relations Division. Um, So, under the shelter in place executive order that I think we were going to try to link to, or you can just find it, it's on the governor's webpage. Custody agreements are specifically exempted out of like banned travel. So it's one of the exceptions you can do and should be doing. So um, the executive order says, parenting time and custody agreement should still be happening. And Judge Dickler's administrative order, I'm just reading it now in front of me, unless otherwise directed by further order of court, the parties shall continue to follow their respective parenting time schedules. That order was entered on March 18th as one of these administrative orders. So, um, generally, right, you're doing your parenting exchanges, pickup, etc., as normal because both the governor and the Cook County court order say you should be doing it. Now, people have asked me that question, and I know we had this come up with a client of ours on. There's an exception, and I think things probably are a little loose and a little more flexible than normal right now. So keep that in mind. The next point on this administrative order that Judge Dickler's office had put out that um, to paraphrase, or I'll read it directly, parties are strongly encouraged to act in the best interests of their children and are strongly admonished from taking acts that would imperil the physical health of any child, including unnecessary or discretionary travel. So, do I know exactly what that means? Let me tell you, let me toss out two examples I would say to you to consider. Number one is a case, actually, of one of our clients that I spoke with within the last week. Her son is or was sick a week to 10 days ago when we had this conversation. I don't think it's COVID-19, but mom, who's our client, had some concerns. And on the other side of that case, the father lives with his elderly parents who are not well and have chronic diseases. So, honestly, in that situation, I reached out to the other attorney and I also advised our client to just basically do not do that parenting time and consider some alternative, maybe some public space, do something, by way of a walk, cancel it until your son's better type thing. I thought that was appropriate in terms of the kind of the health, concerns out there right now because the child was sick, and probably the bigger concern, if the father was really using his head, is if he's living with his elderly parents, right? That's the group of people. I'm not the doctor here, but that's the group of people who are the big COVID-19 risk. So that was an exception I carved out and at least advised the client on of ours, just in terms of parenting time within the shelter in place situation. Um, and then certainly I can think of another client of ours who is down in Florida with a kid. And she's not going to be facilitating parenting time with the father who's up here right now, right? I mean, I don't think you. I mean, I mean, how much longer is air travel going to be actually functional? I mean, I don't think she's driving from Florida here. So, I mean, that would be another one, sort of the sick situations or the extreme out of state situations. I think you probably could and probably should kind of figure out a better way to do it, or pause parenting time for the near term, or do something like I'm doing right now and do a FaceTime or a YouTube, or, obviously any of the options with regards to virtual parenting time. So the courts aren't closed. I talked just for a second about the court scheduling. Parenting time with shelter in place. If you got anything going and you want to chat a question, please toss it in the chat bot on the side, if you will. Number four, just kind of thinking prospectively. Number four, what are the ramifications if you're kind of in an income reduction, job loss situation, and what to do? What do you do if you're at, right? I don't know, what are your spaces? I'm almost kind of intentionally not getting too deep into the news since there's so much drama, but right. I mean, I think retail's having huge problems, restaurants and food having huge problems outside of groceries, I guess restaurants specifically. I would assume one of these days, kind of air travel and that space in general is going to have some big issues too. So, and I mean, I'm certainly not immune from the economy in general, though our economy actually isn't too bad, and I'm thankful for that. But if you're at the restaurant that's shut down, you're probably going to have some income loss. So I'm just teeing a few things up in terms of things to think about if your economy's not faring too well because you might be in one of these hugely impacted industries. Get your petition to modify child support on file. It's probably the easiest pleading to do in family law. Uh, and you don't want to be the person who gets behind for no reason. Most people who are actually behind are not deadbeats. They just don't know the law. So take that act, contact us, or maybe if you know or have the sophistication to do it yourself, do the petition to modify child support. Do the petition to, modify your alimony or maintenance, right? Those are pure income. I mean, most of those cases are income changes. That's a substantial change that would cause a court to, lower child support, lower maintenance. The other one I just had sort of top of mind, is relocation something maybe related to one of those things to think about, on a more permanent basis? I know I spoke with one of our people yesterday, just sort of teeing up some ideas. If your job and your income has gone down and or it's gone, is that now the time to go back to maybe your home area in Iowa or something, where your family is and your support system is? So point number four on is, what are the ramifications if you have a job loss or a big income reduction? What are some things you should do? Think about the petitions to modify child support, maintenance, relocation. They're probably things I'm not even thinking about, but those things are out there. So point number five is, I mean, I'm teeing up the idea of, are you ready to file a new case? Okay. I know internally we've been talking at our firm quite a bit actually about kind of generating new business, just right as an internal team, right? It's what you do. You're trying to help people sell legal services. That's our business. But the related point and the important underlying point is, what type of case is actually the least impacted case? It's the new client. It's the new matter. Whereas the person who has court a week from now or had court a week ago, right, their matter in theory has gotten delayed 30 or 45 days. And, that's a little annoying. The person who hires us right now, basically their case is going to proceed exactly as if we weren't under all these strange COVID-19 court closures and restrictions. Because, I mean, here's an example of somebody who I did a call with a couple days ago, and I think he just hired us like formally, like today. It's a new divorce case. And what does a brand new divorce case look like? It looks like this. Our firm is going to prepare a petition for dissolution of marriage. The client's going to take a look at it, and it's going to basically get finalized, within a week or less, right? That's going to be the picture, whatever the circumstance. What's step two? We're going to place the thing basically with our process server that is going to hand his wife a petition for dissolution of marriage. You're starting a case. You've been served, and that typically, at least with the place we use, which is very good, it's still going to be 7 to 10 days before they get somebody served. I mean, even if they're not, the weirdo who's hiding out and dodging service, if so it's going to take us a week to file the case. It's going to take another 10 days ish before that person gets served. And unless you have an emergency type situation, a normal case, whether it be a divorce case or a custody case, now I've been served. Now I have 28 days to file my response. And, then it's kind of off to the races, and then the substance would happen thereafter. But if you do the math on that, that's whether there's COVID-19 restrictions or nothing is happening out of the ordinary. So, I mean, what is that? It's basically 7 days, 10 days equals 17 days plus another 28 days to respond. What's the math on that? Is that 45, I think? So, I would imagine the court system will probably be functioning again, fully functional within about 45 days. But so that's my statement. A new matter, new divorce, new parentage case, new whatever, is not going to be impacted really at all. Obviously, in parentheses, excuse me, the timing and such with COVID-19 still a little bit dodgy. I'm not going to sit here and say I know, I mean, that's, insane for me to say, but it feels to me like, the court system's probably going to be running and functional in 45 days beyond what I've, kind of spoken about earlier. So if you're ready to file a new case, get with us or, if you're ready to do something yourself, because there's not much impact on you. There's not much impact on that scenario I just spoke about. So first 5 points to just highlight again. Courts aren't closed. On a very limited thing, you can't really, there are a couple things you can't do, but courts aren't closed. Don't, it's just not factual. The courts have actually remained open and have been quite innovative in terms of how they are administering things right now. So courts aren't closed. Court scheduling, if you have a current case, is basically that 30-day automatic continuance. 3, consider how you should be doing parenting time with the shelter in place picture in Illinois, and I would imagine other states are pretty dramatically impacted financially. Do something, right? Do something. Do the simple petition to modify support. Do the simple petition to maybe relocate back to mom's house or something, even if it's more than 25 miles away. I would bet that kind of is a more gettable thing right now, given the circumstances. Number 5, if you're ready to file a new case, you're not that impacted. I just went through that timeline. You simply are not that impacted if you're ready to file a new case. And here's my last point, sort of outside the court system, just something we do as a firm. We in the last year or two, we've gotten basically in the business of preparing and selling digital courses. We think, and I mean, I absolutely think that it's sort of a good little, as a business thing, you can be selling courses and stuff around the world versus just one-on-one lawyering. And once you've created the course, right, you can just sell it repeatedly. More importantly, we can help a lot more people. I'm really passionate about supporting people's, parenting relationships. I'm passionate about supporting marriage. I'm passionate about, protecting kids in these processes. And we just think that we have some expertise and some resources that might be of value to people in sort of this paid course space. So I just wanted to tee up one of these courses. Is called Achieve Your Magnificent Marriage. I rolled it out about a month ago, 2 months ago, and it was really, I mean, it's something I put together over about 5 years, or strike that, about 2 years. So it was a lot of work, and I mean, I think you'll find it to be some good materials. We'll post it here in the chat bot, or reach out to our firm. It's called Achieve Your Magnificent Marriage. It's basically 5 lessons, approximately an hour each. Some pretty deep training. Lessons are before the big day, the early years, what's the matter with kids, force change, create a crisis, and survive to thrive. Just to tease those out a little bit, and if you look at the sales page, you'll see more. But it's basically a very deep dive um, on it's my personal experience as somebody who's been married for no, that's bad, 15 years. It's my personal experience of basically the family law process. And essentially, sometimes, that one of those lessons is absolutely tailored to using kind of the divorce court process to actually improve your marriage. It's also just kind of a deep dive into the latest sort of social science research on marriage, what's working, what's effective. And it's also a deep sort of Christian theology. I'm a Christian. It's a deep dive on what the Bible says about marriage. So that's point number 6, is just consider that, right? I mean, the reality is everybody's doing a lot of streaming and learning, teaching, coaching. My wife has bought a few classes during this time. It's like, how can you use this time in a positive way, right? There's all this drama and stuff, but it's like, um, you know, a good question that I've been kind of using to frame my day and kind of this time period and this future that I was given by sort of a coach is kind of like, um, what does this allow, or what opportunities does this sort of now make possible, right? This has happened, and there's obviously negative stuff, but there's some positive stuffs too. And that's one thing I would just tee up for you. We do have some good digital courses, including Achieve Your Magnificent Marriage. So with that, I'm going to wrap. I think I went through the 6 points pretty quickly. I hope they're being chatted out there pretty well as well. And I think other than that, chat any questions. You can contact our firm, and we'll link to our website right now. But it's familylawchicago.com. And yeah, anything from the webinar or just general kind of, you're ready to start a divorce, custody case, step parent adoption. I mean, those are kind of our 3 bread and butters. Or check out that digital course. It's $97. It's 5 lessons, at least 5 hours worth of training with it's basically a videos part of each one, a slide package with voiceovers part of each one. And there's actually some quizzes and what would you say, evaluation piece in each one as well, just so you're actually learning and getting some good takeaways, because there's some good stuff in there. I know I love my wife, and we have a pretty great marriage, and you know what? We're still kind of in each other's hair right now because we're together a lot more than usual. So I'm going to leave it there. Again, I'm attorney Peter Olson, Chicago Family Law Group. Check us out at familylawchicago.com, and stay healthy, and I look forward to serving you. Take care.